We are live on Valentine's Day, February 14th at noon, book lunch. And I'm saying hi to my girlfriend over there, who's a very
hi back.
Hi back. Joanne Davis Marilyn Woods, correct?
Joanne Marilyn Davis Woods.
Joanne Marilyn, I'm not incorrect.
Too many names.
Joanne Marilyn Davis Woods, or Joe,
Mm-hmm.
or Joanne. At least they didn't call you Joanna or Joan or all these awful things people do to your name. So.
Or Joni. Yeah, that's what we avoid that.
We avoid that except when we're talking about when Jody loves Chachi, which is a reference. Okay, no, I'm gonna keep things.
Okay.
Jody, we don't want it. We don't. Okay, so Aaron Gray and the. You'll so it's funny. It makes me think about what is it? Demoted or disreputable celebrities, right? Of which he's one, right? Scott Baio is sort of the John Voight, David Mamet. We can go out there. People that have accomplished something or done something in their star dims because of something they did on a set, or just gets all other topics. Our subject today is actually quite exemplary. Right, Patti Smith is really. So it's interesting. She's actually has good character.
Yeah,
which is unusual, right, in the arts. I have to say, So we're not talking about her as a person, but we are here to celebrate Patti Smith, and we're here to celebrate this incredible book. I love this book. And I have so much I want to say about it and get into, but we also kind of think we should start off how we normally do. When did we first encounter Patti Smith? And you can talk about your first, and I can talk about when we'll do that. And before we get to the books, except before we do that, I want to say, I think I've covered on this show Proust, John Updike. I've talked about people. She's close. She's a writer. She's on that level. She's really, 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 really great writer. As a writer and a poet, and which is interesting because she inaugurates her career known in the music world and known in singing and performing, and actually as an actor in theater, I think so. But that's when I first saw her. But enough about that. When did you first? Because you have more stories about Patti Smith than do I.
So I guess it was 76.
Yeah.
Right around when Horses came out.
Mm-hmm. Bicentennial.
Yeah, I was at a magazine stand, and I don't know what magazine it was, but there was an interview with her, and they described her as like an actively hallucinating schizophrenic, which I thought was kind of odd. It was like just trying to be exotic, and they talked about what she was wearing. She was in the being interviewed, red silk pajama pants and a red hoodie.
Okay.
Back when hoodies were more, athletic wear, they weren't necessarily considered indispensable clothing.
Right. So it's actually seeing something in a periodical or seeing. Yeah. That's interesting, right? To find out. Does that mean that when we discover things in a particular era, and that era's media and technology? So that means if somebody discovered a musician today would be with earbuds on and a little MP of a song, 2 minutes of song, and a picture on a screen of somebody, right? That's how it'd be now. But because it's 76, it's a newsstand or it's a magazine or it's a.
Yeah. There was. So we were talking about her early career.
Yes.
She was playing with being a visual artist.
Oh, okay.
She did have work in a couple gallery shows. In fact, I have a copy here of
This
a
is
drawing, and this is from the Gotham Book Mart Gallery. This is a
Joe,
copy.
can I tell you something amazing? Do you know what my dad's favorite bookstore was? The Gotham Book Mart.
Right.
My
Well,
dad
she
would
worked
go
there.
on and on about how much he loved the Gotham Book Mart. And my dad was friends with Francis Steloff, who owned it, the vegetarian radical.
I have
90.
an
That's amazing.
autograph.
Wow.
Yeah.
You got that, huh?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So yeah, she toyed. She wanted to be an artist,
Interesting.
but she didn't quite know in which direction she should go. Finally, she just decided that she just didn't have what it took to be a visual artist.
I mean, that brings up so many. So I've always felt, and again, I'm actually, this is quite non-linear because we're not doing. We've departed from my first experience because I haven't talked about seeing cowboy mouth as a child. That's a whole other. That's why. So Sam Shepard. But what I'm saying is that when I think about Patti Smith, and not think about her poetry and her writing, I see her as part of the visual art world. Actually, I think about people like Rauschenberg and Warhol. There's some vibe about her that's connected to that. So I'm not too far off in that. I didn't in the factory, right? I don't know. It's and of course Robert Mapplethorpe and some of the people in her life were visual artists, you know, as well as musicians. And so when she has the ability to draw, that's beautiful. That look, but that actually what you just showed me looks like some of Warhol's magazine work. It looks like magazine. Warhol used to do covers for the New Yorker. So I have an advertisement for Kenny Burrell, a jazz album with a guitar, and Warhol's the illustrator in the 50s.
Well, you know, there's like an Emily Post etiquette book that Warhol did the illustrations of the place settings of like where your forks should go. Yeah.
So what does this mean? So one of the themes of my podcast is that so there's one sense in which things are really profoundly different from one another. So the TV show Joni Loves Chachi that I just mentioned, Happy Days, are so profoundly different than a Bresson film. I mean, different in meaning and intent and in quality. I mean, because, you know, I have this, and she writes this poem, the Robert Bresson, incredible. And, you know, there's no commonality between Mouchette and Jeanne d'Arc and L'Argent and Pickpocket and some TV show in the 70s. There's no commonality, except they're both made by people and they're both visual. So there's still, so it isn't, so there's a sense in which it's not zero commonality. So that's an interesting thing. So I guess I don't mean to be on a soapbox, but I'm just saying the arts have this diversity and we can evaluate and say, this is junk, or this is really lifts the spirit. And this is, you know, and I know that I showed you those Bresson films for the first time, right? I don't know if you want to talk about that later, or the experience of that. Somebody trying to make, you know, a film as a Christian enterprise or a spiritual enterprise. Or in the case of Patti Smith, she's very much a spiritual writer, and she's always asking, what is God? Even in this latest book, she wrote a book called Devotion. That's different than doing a sitcom, you know, obviously. Then maybe there's a place for all of it. Anyhow, I didn't mean that. But
well, you know, the sitcom, to keep in mind, it's a business.
Oh yeah,
it's a business.
Yeah,
and you know, Patti has made a point of not conceding her independence.
Yes.
And yeah.
Well, it's one of the kinds of arts in our world one of the missions of arts in our world to be against the man, and without qualification, against, like really against. Not always, and not all artists, but that. And Patti Smith is, when she writes power, people have the power, and even more. But yeah, so my first experience was this weird church. 3 years old, 2 years old, being dragged to this play with somebody named Samshepard and somebody named Patti Smith. I didn't know who these people were because my parents, I guess, were hip or sophisticated. It's kind of amazing, right? 72 in New York, but I didn't know anything about what I was seeing, really. I liked the Crow. I did like that. I mean,
Raymond the Crow.
Yeah, we're talking about Cowboy Mouth, but I had a kind of and I know that when I used to hang out with my dad, the Gotham Bookmark, I would see this Ha Ha Houdini, and I think my dad loved Houdini, was obsessed with Houdini, and so I think he got that book, but I don't know whatever happened to that copy. I don't know. It's
yeah.
It's
It came with a lock.
It came with a lock, but you have more stories about Patti Smith, right? Because you talked to her at a performance, or anyhow, you have more to say. I know.
Yeah, she was in Chicago to do a show, but she was also going to be at a suburban bookstore.
Huh.
Signing books, and you did take the L up north. I think it was like in Niles or some odd place. I mean, like, it just didn't seem like a typical place. So I rode the train to the end of the line and then had to walk to wherever the bookstore was. And this young man on a bicycle, we knew that we were both going the same place. So I rode on the handlebars with him to the bookstore to get our autographs, and I'd stand in line. And I have to admit that when I got up to the front of the line and she signed my book, I didn't move. I just stood there, and she just leaned her elbow on my shoulder, and I hung out next to Patti Smith for an hour.
Wow.
Yeah, she was wearing a white T-shirt over a red bra.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, she always had a sense of fashion style. So
yeah.
Then and now, and it's a different. Again, that's an expression of her independence. I mean, again, it's totally uncategorizable. So let's say you want to put even the label of Christian does not quite right. It is, but it isn't. She grew up Jehovah's Witness, but she also says Jesus didn't die for my sins, which is one of the funniest lines. Just brilliant. There's a little bit of Dorothy Parker. I think that's Patti Smith channeling a little bit of the H.L. Mencken, Dorothy Parker. Jesus don't die, but this is a woman that's deeply, deeply. Make no mistake.
I mean, what an introduction to the public. I mean, that one line.
That one line, yeah.
One line, and then taking that song, which is, so iconic anyway, and totally making it hers.
Yeah, it's amazing. Because people that have faith wrestle with their faith. And, it would seem to me the best kind of faith would have about it skepticism and have about it, scientific inquiry, and not be be on guard against credulity, even in faith. So that's not really, not to be a soapbox, but it's, she has this, and then of course her background of New Jersey. So you actually got to hang out with her in that moment, right? That would be the horse's time, right? Or sort of.
Yes. Yeah. So there's two things about Patti's faith, I think, is that she's not buying it from somewhere else. This is like
Oh,
ultimately her.
oh yeah.
It's her relationship
Oh yeah.
with the world,
Mm-hmm.
know, not with God the Father.
No.
It's
No.
Patti's relationship with the world that she was.
It's it's the holiness and divinity of the whole world.
Right. There's like what is it? The word immanence.
Eminence, yes, the eminence.
Yeah. But
yeah.
There are religions that draw from that. Like Shinto.
Oh, sure.
Definitely. I think, in the book, she's always talking about like her little items. There are items of significance.
Oh, yeah.
Dresses or boots or, the little stone in her bag, and she like lines up things, like a medicine bag.
It's the same thing. I mean, make no mistake, she's animistic. She thinks that so-called immaterial, she thinks that so-called material objects have immaterial properties.
The material and the spiritual overlap.
Totally united. She'll talk about, I wore this dress, 70 years ago, or her mother's clothing, and I repurposed this black dress and I wore it at this concert. It's just very, and a lot of the texture of her writing is focusing on these details. And I do think that there's something shamanistic about that. But these are crude words; they don't do justice to. And again, it's totally her own. Like, I got a book up there. See that book, A Religion of One's Own, Thomas More. Because I think we have to create our own religions. A religion of one's own. It doesn't. And so that's what Patti Smith did. She created a religion of her own, and she continues to practice it in her. She's 80 now, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, I think she is 80.
Yeah, so she's of that generation. Well, like my mom's generation, same generation, right? So I guess the silence. I guess out of whom the beatniks come, right? From Williamburroughs and.
Well, she's a little bit younger than.
She's younger, yeah. That's of course. They're actually.
She was like a little bit young for the folk singer mode in New York.
Right.
She's kind of like in the middle there.
That's right. Yeah. So horses and cowboy mouth. Did you want to show some of your books that you have? You have some beautiful. I should say, Joanne has one of the largest collections of Patti Smith books. I'm borrowing one here. This is borrowed. It's going to be returned to you.
Yeah.
Babel, because of later on.
Yes, we have the Year of the Monkey. We have Devotion. It's like, of course, M Train.
Yeah.
This is early work, and somewhere I had 2 small paperback copies of her early poetry, and I do not know where they went. But I think the work is covered in this book.
Yeah.
This is a volume of a lot of photos.
Yes.
She's taken and collected, and I had another copy of Just Kids, but you bought me this one for my birthday. I
did, because it's a good copy.
Yeah, lots of great photos in here.
There's a lot of good photos in the new book. There's a photo of her and her family walking, and very recently, actually post-pandemic, actually. Well, actually, no, right before the pandemic, 2019, the year before it hit. There's her, her with her.
Fred and the.
And this is just such a beautiful book. So I didn't know how to proceed because I had a strong idea about love. And as you know, I'm gonna quote my favorite passage, because I even wrote it down. And I want to do a close reading of this line because it's just a clause. because I think close reading of art and poetry is very important, you know? And because there's, you know, she utilizes irony and ambiguity and all these things in one clause. So she talks about meeting Fred, the great guitarist, MC5, right?
Motor City 5. Yeah.
Motor City 5. And you like that because do you want to talk about Michigan when we get to, we're going to get to Michigan, aren't we? We're going to, in this episode, we got to talk about Michigan. But anyhow, yeah. When we first met, I had no idea who he was. No idea who the person was, stranger. But I knew instantly he would be my life. That's a leap of faith. That's a spiritual, I don't know who you are, but I just know you're going to be there. That's just, these are the kind of crazy things romantic people say about love. Leap of faith, blind, right?
Yeah, that it was clear.
It was clear. But then she says, I think this is one, I want to put this on my, I'm not going to have a tombstone. I'm probably going to be cremated, but I think it's the greatest thing ever written. Such is the terrible mystery of love. She calls it a terrible mystery. Thank God she doesn't say such is the majestic mystery.
Yeah, she's talking about the awesomeness.
Yes. No, she touches the terror in using terrible, you know, the way actually the movie of our moment is what would Bronte have written? She would have written that, right? Something like it in Wuthering Heights to Margot Robbie and company and or Muriel Oberon, for those of you old enough to remember Olivier and Oberon and other eras, different eras, any of it. Such is the terrible mystery of love. So love's a mystery. It's terrible. It's awesome. And this is what I really love. That draws us from all that we know. So it draws us from all that we know. So we know things and we're being drawn maybe away or from. And yet, we, you know, in speech, we say draw from, meaning from the past or from something known at the same time. Like I draw on my musical. So when I play a piece of music, I draw on all the studies of music, drawing from. So that's not away, that's including. So that's the thing about love. She's saying that's so great. She's saying love is both unknown and known. It's from our experience and from what we know. It's not sui generis in that sense. It's not ex nihilo. And yeah, it's total at one at the same time, all that we don't know and utterly mysterious. And you know, just like when I met you, Joe, totally new person in my life. You have absolutely nothing to do with anybody I've ever known. Totally new. New in spirit, new in body, new in person. No commonality, and yet you are a person, you're a woman. So it's such interesting, and maybe that's why humans love, I think. I think humans, and this is very uncharacteristic of me to praise love like this, because I do think love is, you know, love is a mixed bag, as we jazz musicians would say, right? It is. It's not always good. But I think the reason why humans love, it's a blend. It's never boring. It's the perfect blend of the familiar and the unfamiliar. Right? What do you think? Have I said too much about it? I don't want to embarrass you. I don't want to.
Oh, but it's a hard topic to define.
Yeah.
You know, it's her journey with Fred.
Yes.
You know, took her away from the stage.
It did.
You know, she said that, you know, yes, she needed to leave that world You know, she was doing stadium concerts in Europe, but she wasn't writing anymore.
Huh.
And going off to live in Michigan with Fred.
There you go. There's
lived
Michigan.
in a house, you know, on a lake. You know, it wasn't an easy decision to make, she said.
It's hard.
Yeah.
Do you think that she has the affection for Michigan that you have in a way, or part? Because I know that Michigan's part of your life and it's part of her life. What do you think? And at what period of time would that be in her life when that's
So that was what, late 70s, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
And that's kind of when you were in Michigan, right? Late 70s?
No, I was
in Chicago.
Gone. Yeah. Yeah. I left Michigan in 76.
Okay, bicentennial. So
she loved Michigan in that she loved her home, and she loved the trees, and she loved the plants growing in their little home area. You know, she loved it because it was the world. You know, she you know, she had early times in rough urban areas with rats and debris. You know,
poverty,
yeah, and then in New Jersey, in the
God.
You know, the fields and the, you know, a cow maybe you would see, but you know, that freedom. She had like freedom to inhabit her habitat. You know, the kids could run around. You know, there were no helicopter parents then.
Yeah, that's a little like kind of how I grew up in the 70s. You know, dirt bikes and everything's the bicycle and the that's what you do.
Yeah. So I mean, you have time to think your own thoughts and not be too overly influenced by the adult world.
You have time to maybe create your own religion.
Yeah.
If it possesses you to do such a,
you know, to commune with the big turtle in the pond.
That's right, turtles.
Yeah, you know, she was like late for school
because of an animal.
Yeah.
Where is that in this book? That's important, right?
Well, you know, she's in New Jersey. She's a child. Yeah.
And she loves the turtle.
Yeah. She said that they had a conversation, a silent conversation. And got to school about 4 hours late, and everyone was horrified. But
well, they don't know what to make of that, do they?
She was the dreamer. Yeah. She had time for introspection, and she had her fun times running around with, you know, her gang, her brothers and sisters and the neighborhood kids.
Yeah.
But then I think because she spent so much time being ill.
Yeah, that's right.
And being confined to bed with fevers and, you know, scarlet fever and the flu and measles and all. Again, I think that gives, you know, time for introspection and you know, it's probably, you know, a blessing that in the early years they didn't have a TV. You know, she would like listen to wonderful music and have her books.
Her musical taste is so different than mine. I scarcely at all overlap with her. I think one of her favorite albums of all time is Ascension. So in other words, she doesn't say John Coltrane's a love supreme. She says ascension. And I suspect she loves Albert Ayler. So she's really comes, in a way, she's an avant-gardist. She comes out of the avant-garde. And maybe that's some of that is in her music, so her kind of rock and roll. It's interesting, right? Well, and maybe there's a connection to Bresson. Maybe that's why she likes Rimbaud and Bresson and these artists that are more abstract, abstract and more difficult. So do you want to read something from this book, or do you want to?
I was just seeing this note. This is from a book she read as a child that actually a neighbor would read from this book, that she had loved this quote. And in her adult life, her sister found a copy of this book and got it back to her. But so I don't know who wrote these lines.
Okay.
But she thought they were like the most profound things, that all desires save one are fleeting, but that one lasts forever. That's the desire for wisdom.
Yeah.
And then when the character in this book was asked, if you were given wisdom, what would you do with it?
What a question.
The character says that he would write a poem.
Well, sure, yeah. What else are you going to do with it?
Yeah. Because
that's all
a successful poem, like,
oh yeah,
includes the world in a few lines.
Oh sure. And includes the turtle.
Yeah.
That she had a conversation with. Wow. A poem.
Yeah. And so she starts the book with a couple of things.
Which, the new one or old? I mean,
the new one. The phrase "rebel hump."
Yeah, we have to talk about the rebel.
Yeah, and the other thing, she starts out with a quote from Gogol.
Yeah.
That obstacles are our wings.
Obstacles are our wings. Let's see.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. That's yeah.
So, an easy path, doesn't necessarily, bring you to the pinnacle. So yes, going through this book and dealing with the term rebel hump.
Yeah, let's get it. So hold that thought. So the first thing is the pen scratches across the page. Rebel hump. And it's italicized here.
Yes.
Rebel hump. And throughout the book, she talks about how her rebel hump is doing. Almost like, and then she gives a more specific, she says it's shaped like a helmet. Steel helmet. So she actually describes what it is. It's some kind of object.
Right. It's just like it's like if you were a humpback, if you were, a hunchback of, it also reminds me of, for some reason, that the helmet that Klaus Kinski wore in that Herzog movie, Aguirre.
Aguirre, Wrath of God. Yeah, great film.
But
I'm sure it's a film she knows and likes. But I just picked up here, I read that Gogol spent much time in the Roman atelier of Ivanov, who did the appearance of Christ before the people. So she does a lot of study of spiritual artwork, whether it's the appearance of Christ before the people, and then talks about, she goes to the Hiroshima Museum, Memorial Museum, talks about de Kooning, but Emily Dickinson, This Is My Letter to the World. But it's a very sophisticated theological discussion in this book. Are you looking up at a bird? What did you see,
I
Joe?
was, yes. I was looking at a bird.
Joe looks up mysteriously up at the sky and the ceiling, and you do this all the time. And I usually know when you look up like that you see a bird or a nest.
Mm-hmm.
You could see a bird. So I bet you right now, it's probably hard to see that bird. It's hard for me to see that bird. You could have the windows drawn, the shades closed.
Yeah.
You're gonna see what the bird's doing, aren't you?
Yeah. It was a woodpecker
In
the maple tree. Yeah. But it's like William, he's always looking at things we don't see.
That's true. That's true. So I was gonna say it's almost like the realm of theology parts of this book, I have to say. And even art criticism, because she's talking about beliefs people had about, is this painting an accurate depiction of the Christ? Oh yeah, the mind of Christ. Well, the way she writes about is just here's a yes, okay. The artist stabilizes an aspect of the flow of metamorphosis to freeze as a work of art. And that's kind of what Tarkovsky talks about in Sculpting in Time. What is the artwork? And Andrei Tarkovsky, the Russian filmmaker, talks about, you're trying to, in a sense, freeze time because time's fleeing. You want to capture time. Here she says, Da Vinci's The Last Supper. This is page 245. Da Vinci's The Last Supper. Piero della Francesca's The Legend of the True Cross. And this is what I love about Patti Smith, and only she would do this. Or Blue Poles by Jackson Pollock. So this is the thing. I'm on team Patti Smith, because Patti Smith is saying Jackson Pollock is equivalent to Da Vinci and Francesca. Not Pollock isn't some kind of talentless, alcoholic, macho. I mean, he is those things too, unfortunately, perhaps too. The Ed Harris movie, but he's also, she's saying Blue Poles is, she's extolling it very highly in that company. And that's she's right about that. Just like, it's my own tone deafness, in a way. I'm not tone deaf. I know music. I'm never going to really be able to appreciate John Coltrane's Ascension, even though I heard it rather early in life, as much as Love Supreme, but it's all good. I like a different Coltrane, but I do love John Coltrane. But, it would be like Patti Smith, I think, to put John Coltrane, to pair Ascension with Bob Dylan's Highway 93.
Highway 61 Revisited.
Yeah. Saying, look here, there's something equivalent here. So I want to read a little bit, if you don't mind, from her Robert Bresson. This is for the Bresson fans. I don't know. But she's now, we're going to get to, this is from Babel, right? And I have a sense she had just seen Bresson for the first time. So that means she's seen it. I don't think she had the cult environment to see it in the 60s or 50s when they came out. Because she's in Jersey, or she's a child, or maybe, so she may be seeing these things in retro repertoire theater. It's interesting, right? If that's the case, because she's saying, and so she wrote this poem, Robert Bresson 1. I awoke, W, new strength. I awoke with new strength, period. L'Enfant Terrible was on the screen. Since my illness, I have installed in my site a small screen and projection booth. There were 3 films running continuously: Terrible Children, Mademoiselle, and Thomas the Imposter. Period. All blonde films, period. For a while, there was only one film, O Hazard Balthazar. Period. I saw it several hundred times under mild sedation. Period. For a time, my mind was a notebook of stills, annotations, and the art of this century. So long. See, this is essentially poetry. It's on the page. What's on the page? Specific, black and white, the enamel on canvas of Pollock. Here we are again, Pollock. We are all children of Jackson Pollock. We are all chaotic mutants, an extension of his action. From his mad wrist spun us, just as we manifested our assault upon him via the vocal cords and the kind of Little Richard and James Brown or Mick Jagger. Just as we cheated within dance, a discipline of ritual abandon, just as we thrust on our own and become one with an arm going down on the sonic setup of an electric guitar. I dream a lot of Brancusi when I play guitar. His struggle with marble is my drama with rock. I like the feel of the neck, a strong, solid maple neck, like the arm of a thick-veined boy or the throat of a conqueror. That's just one. Then there's 2 that she includes. So 2 is there is a close-up of Marie. Now, of course, that's a reference to Mouchette, right? And a reference to these films, the characters in both Balthazar. So I guess a person would have to have seen those films to get all of this poem. Just like it probably would help to know some Pollock, right? This is the same Marie of 1+1. Of course, that's Godard. 1 plus, the Marxist Godard of this. I always make a point of pointing out this is Godard's conversion to Maoism. I say, we're talking about artists having bad sides and making mistakes. This is one of them. Supporting the Cultural Revolution, making movies like 1+1. So you asking me, I'm kind of anti-communist, Joe, Ask me, so if I have an opportunity to go see 1+1 in a theater and see the Rolling Stones or ever playing drums or Charlie Watts and seeing people reading from the Little Red Book, in mini skirts in 66, am I going to refuse to attend that screening and not see that movie because I think Mao was a monster? I'm going to answer my own question. Yes, Mao was a monster. 1+1 is a dynamite picture. Yes, I'm going to go see Godard's 1+1 with Anakin. So you could say, well, am I compartmentalizing? I mean, these are really quite. So what I'm saying is that you have to meet a work of art on its own level.
Yeah.
Right. And that level, the creator was wrong about Mao or saw hope, or maybe Godard was trying to find a way up from under the oppressiveness of French colonial society. Right? I say this because Battle of Algiers is coming up next week. So we're going to and I've spoken too much. What do you think? Do you see what I'm saying? So of course I'm not saying I love 1+1, but it's a document of its time, right? Or any of those other, I don't know.
Yeah. It is. The world is complicated. There's no purity of motive.
And even the fact that she's like watching three or four films simultaneously, but she zeroes in on this. It's personal for her.
A lot of the world is personal for Patti.
Yeah.
She really takes things in.
Yeah.
The art she sees, the music she hears, the turtles she meets. There's
She beats.
Yeah, they don't just flow over her without any influence,
Yeah, they go in here.
Yeah, so
they go and so that's the interesting thing. I hear William.
Yes.
They go through William. William is meowing now. They go through here the same way that Bresson makes films about a donkey. Balthazar makes films about Mouchette and Marie. That's actually the seriousness.
Yes. So
it's really interesting because in Patti Smith, there's simultaneously a playfulness, an aestheticism, and at one and the same time, a life or death seriousness. At one and it's both.
Yeah. Well, she really values the role of joy in life.
Yeah.
And she also considers it, an act of resistance.
Yes.
In the injustice and the political greed of the world.
Yeah.
She thinks that, hope shouldn't be lost.
No.
Yeah.
That's why she would love Godard's 1+1. I mean, I don't want to mix up Godard films. It's an interesting weekend. She's it's interesting, right? So
she's concerned about what goes in.
Oh yeah.
It's like what you bring into yourself from the world.
Yeah.
You might want to curate what you let come into your being.
Sure.
And then of course that affects her work, but like in between the input and the output, that's where her work is done.
Right.
The magic happens in making that playfulness out of the life and death seriousness of.
Right. Well, I want to come back because I didn't never finish. So, she's comparing these different artworks about the story of Christ, right? And I guess, let's see here. And then she mentions Gregory Corso, all of her own friends from the beat world. Corso. It's so interesting what she says. She mentions San Martino's The Veiled Christ as Joe looks up at the bird. What's the bird doing now? The Veiled Christ. The marble Christ lies in his death sleep, a shroud covering his face and body, disturbingly transparent, exposing his suffering. At his feet are shackles, nails and pliers, perfectly wrought instruments of his torment. Studying these moving images, I am easily transported back to Naples, reliving the extraordinary hour that I spent within the chapel. As I stood over the imitation of the Messiah, I detected an innate disquiet in the glowing patina of his features. And though forbidden, I ran my fingers over his wound. She touched that's the artwork. They say don't touch in the gallery.
Oh, yeah.
She ran her fingers over his wound in a portion of the shroud. And I felt the vibrations of an inaudible yet exquisite moan, and was carried through time to the genesis of the sculptor's creation. I shadowed him as he searched for the perfect model. Believing to have found him, he trails him, noting his habits, body language, and the play of light on his neck and the muscles of his limbs. He is excessively mobile, no sooner reaching his destination than preparing to leave. Nevertheless, the sculptor chooses him to embody the dead Christ. He offers some work, but explains he must lie perfectly still, right? For hours on end, completely against his nature. In return, he will be paid 1 gold ducat and the promise of immortality, right? Obliged to emulate death, the restless and agitated model explores his untapped psyche. Then, emboldened cell by cell, he permeates the consciousness of Christ. Now, I observed all of this and wrote quickly, detailing the unholy metamorphosis, stopping short as the model melded with the coiling fibers of the Messiah's mind. That's a mouth. I mean, it's just amazing. That's why it's such a great writer. But Messiah's mind. I became acutely aware of astonished onlookers around me and was obliged to close my notebook and re-enter the presence. Just as she's involved in this, just to close, move away, not touch anymore the things, right? Not touch the thing anymore. Enter the present, just to go back to the present, because she was time traveling and thinking, what is this sculpture? What is this artist doing, right? Why was he? And it's actually quite trivial. So the problem, I have so many, as you know, I have so much condemnation of, I don't know, we'll call it born again Christianity or fundamentalist Christianity or whatever that is. They go on and on and on about, did you depict Jesus properly or not? Or is it accurate? Or is it this? Or is it that? Or is it, which is insane, right? Because Patti Smith it operated on a whole, it's a different, right? I mean, it reminds me, did you ever see that movie, Jesus' Son, with Billy Crudup?
No, I haven't.
Do you know about it?
I've heard of it, but
yeah. Well, that connects, of course, to heroin, and I mean, it connects, morphine. I'm sorry, not. Well, we could talk about the whole. Do you want to go into the? Is that changing the subject too much? I mean, well, because of Jesus' Son is about drug addiction, and right, and of course, drugstore cowboy, William Burroughs and Gus Van Sant and Keanu Reeves, and it's about cruising, got gays. I don't want to get too far afield, but what I'm saying is, or, oh goodness, what is the biblical play? Is it Terrence Rafferty? Laurie would know this. Terrence Rafferty, if she's in the chat. Different ways of imagining the Christ story, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can imagine it so many different ways, right? And I guess that so all we're commenting. So this is what people are talking about: the miracle of the shroud, right? This is the shroud. Mm-hmm. One could well imagine the reactions in the mid 18th century. So at 1750, what do people think, right? The people, mystified by its perfection, universally believed Raimondo di Sangro, the famed alchemist who commissioned the work, had melded a gauze-like material and alchemically marbleized it over the face and body of the Christ. This speculation was regarded as fact for well over 2 centuries.
Oh, my word.
What do you think about that? There should have been no question that it was the work of a divinely inspired and technically brilliant sculpture. A great artist is an alchemist as well, driven to transfigure the beauty and brutality of existence. The golden chain of solidarity reaches throughout time. The braided clouds are stacked in the sky. The field of divine consciousness is a fluid field tapped and spoken of here. The alchemy of being is as complex as a flower with a golden head filled with seeds, as fingers pressed into the belly of a thief. of a host of renegade children slashing their shins with small ceremonial knives. I wonder now if I had kept going, removing myself completely, might I have entered the mind of the young man as he entered the mind of Christ? I have since tried to break that barrier, but to no avail. I went as far as I could. So, she did what she could, right? Went as far as I could. Perhaps I had only half lived the moment at hand, gazing inward, casting a blind eye without, with a racing universe within. In a flash, I was gifted an entire history. A young man, the sculptor and the alchemist, in a one-act play extending into forever. I've read too, but that's why those of us consider Patti Smith. That's
yeah. Let's consider her a writer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But what do you make of it? Is like, it's just sort of bring it down to earth, or maybe treat it. What do you make of that? Right. That's a.
Yeah, it's her work. She feels that it's a gift that she was given.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And it's her job to carry it.
Yeah.
It's
yeah. I mean that's a but again, I was trying to contrast, I guess, probably a little bit too. I apologize for being too tendentious if it was a polemical. I talked about the born agains and the, all these kind of but they just,
do they? I guess I'm not aware of.
I was being too hard on them, maybe, but I think rightfully so. I don't think, because I think this is.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just think she has her own vision of the Christ.
Yeah. As did those people she mentions, all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she was trying to find her way in, but yep.
So Joe, what's that bird doing up there? What's going on?
The birds it seems like it's early. The birds are getting ready for mating season. They're getting loud in the morning. They're fluttering around together. They're starting to carry fluff to nesting spots.
So what does that mean when they carry fluff? What is that, Joe? And what is that? But what is that? Is that part of their
to make a nest?
Is to make a nest, yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, it's the cycle is beginning again in the spring. Okay. It's an exciting time. It seems early, but
do you think it's early because of the weather and the climate, or things happening? And
I think the birds, it's been awfully cold, so I don't think they work on like day-to-day temperatures. I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't work on day length.
Yeah.
A lot of plants work on day length as well.
Yeah. It's interesting. I'm just thinking, so that other passage, it's like a poem to the future, right? That's close. Do you want to read it? I want to hear you read it, Joe. You know the passage I'm talking about. Unless you have something else you want to read.
Oh, tell me what page we're on.
It's just amazing because you're saying all the things in the future, and it's a lot of it's negative. It's basically radioactive trees and bombs.
Can you give me the page number?
I'm trying to. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
She didn't know what Kaddish was, so she's always educated herself. So this late in life, she said somebody had died, and the person that had died had been parents had been survivors of the Shoah, the Holocaust, And they said to Patti Smith, "Can you say Kaddish for me?" And she didn't know. And so she educated herself, and then she eventually learned the Kaddish, the prayer for the dead. So she's always learning, like all of us. There's things I don't know.
Yeah, she's always like doing a lot of research.
It's great because she's curious, like, it's great. And she discovered her own Judaism and all these things, right? There's a lot of revelations, right? Did you want to talk about? I mean, that's there's so much to talk about. So we are on this chessboard earth, she says. We attempt to make our moves, but at times it seems as if the great hand of a disinterested giant haphazardly sends us on a trajectory of stumbling. What do we do? It's so great. I mean, she's right. What do we do? It's not rhetorical. She's, what do we do? And we step back and seek within ourselves what is needed to be done and serve the best we can. I mean, that's well, you mentioned earlier about wisdom. That's her wisdom.
Right.
It's her wisdom.
I just came across a little moment here where she is she had gone through a time where she couldn't write.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and it was hard. And and she came upon something that she had written. The phrase was, "We who no longer believe."
Yes, that's right.
And it really disturbed her, wondering, when did she write that? Why did she write that? What was that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it was worrisome. And then so it says, though later that night, preparing for sleep, I felt a warmth spreading across my face.
Yes.
At first, it frightens me, as if overcome with fever. But then I empty myself in a rare moment of surrender, and a dialogue seems to fill the room unbidden, enlightening. What is God? Presence in the face of suffering. She said, her sister comes to mind, those who do believe.
I often think, that we make two, again, that I mentioned I don't know if to call them enemies. I guess they're enemies. The fundamentalists, I don't know. I often think, I often think I've had so many people close to me in life who did not believe, right? And I would never in a million years ever want to challenge that if that's what they needed to be at that moment in their life. I certainly would never want to tell them what to believe. Why would I want to do that? But I'm just saying that I've had so many experiences that were true and good and beautiful with so-called non-believers. I myself was a non-believer for 30 years of my own life. What am I going to do throughout those 30 years and say I was a wastrel and I was wrong? I mean, some dude that, no, it was part of my life. Who I was then. And some of that person is still here now, So that's what I mean. So I just a long way of saying that some people believe, some people don't. That's all right, right?
I think some people believe when they don't know they believe.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Yeah.
But did you find that passage?
Yeah.
Because I was looking for it earlier today too, and I just didn't really come. across
I
it.
think what it is we're not supposed to read it.
That could be.
You know what I'm playing? We're not supposed to. You know, so I had it written down. She mentions Bruce Springsteen because Bruce Springsteen was also into Allen Ginsberg, right? And when Ginsberg died in the 90s, and kind of interesting. Well, there's also a Jersey thing, right? People, right? There's a Jersey connection.
Right. Yeah.
What do you think about regionalism in art? It's important, right? Make sure William. So we have to make sure William doesn't step on the keyboard.
Yes.
Isn't William beautiful? William is making an appearance. This is a big deal.
Oh, he's passed on now. He's looking out the window.
What were we talking? We're talking about. Oh yeah, regions. So Michigan, New Jersey, Naples, New York City. Just Kids. Robert Mapplethorpe.
Yeah.
Where else? I mean, she's really.
Well, I mean, this Bay of Angels, where she is writing. I think that's in France, right?
That's in France. So she's. Yeah. So region is important, isn't it? Do regions have a feeling? You talk about Milwaukee, you have a real affection for parts of Milwaukee. You had a life in Milwaukee. Mm-hmm. So do you think that the geography plays a role in art and culture? It does, doesn't it? It's really important, a particular geography.
Oh, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that the cities have personalities and they?
Oh, sure they do.
You know,
Sure they do.
They affect their inhabitants. Like.
Yeah. Sure they do. Joe and I are still looking for this passage, but you know the thing is, when you're looking for passages,
yeah,
we come by so many good things. Yeah. Oh, here we go. Here we go. I found it. It's page 258.
Okay, I knew it was like toward the back.
And I need to write a letter. So the letter is of my own. Like, again, Virginia Woolf. A room of what she's referring to Virginia Woolf. But also our friend Thomas More, Religion of One's Own. Just like a room of one's own. Do you want to read it? To whom should I write? So I'll just let you.
Okay. What? Perhaps to another age or a time when we will all be gone. My generation, that is my ludicrous kind. A letter to those who went to Bible school, who read the classics, who learned to form letters with a dipping pen, who wrote in cursive, who played outdoors for hours unchecked, who slept in the woods and cut their feet on broken glass and told no one. A letter to a distant future, to the ghost of extinct animals, birds, insects, to the empty hives, to the moss-covered cathedrals, to the pulp of knowledge. I will die remembering you, as we are on the brink of losing so much that is precious, moving into a time where a magnificent hologram will replace a forest, where fruit is solely born on radioactive trees, where the defaced images of the dictators of our age are plastered on mile-long aqueducts and walkways. I'm writing to the cows grazing in bright green fields. I'm writing to the high white corn and the tomatoes red and heavy, hanging from a tangle of lusty vines. I'm writing to the skater unobserved on a pond of ice melting. I'm writing to the sea, to veterans on parade once proud, to the smelt runs, to hot dogs by the lake, to marshmallows on a stick over the open fire, to skinned knees, fly swatters, skate keys, and a bottle of blue pelican ink overturned on a schoolgirl's desk.
Yeah. That's the passage, right?
That's, yeah.
The dictators on the wall, on the screen.
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
The Kennedy Center and the little, it's like the movie we saw last night, right?
Yes, yes.
We saw a wonderful film, this Brazilian film, Secret Agent, about the dictatorship in Brazil. And, and he would show the colonel and the lieutenant, up on the wall and everybody.
In every office, he looked down.
Office.
Yeah. Yeah. Money and power in business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's or mammon, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Is there anything else you want to talk about in any of these books? You have all these books. There's so much.
Maybe another time.
Oh, have I worn? Are you? How do you feel? Are you tired? Or?
Yeah, I'm thinking that. Do you have something else to add here?
No, that says it all. That poem to the future. I mean, to the present.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to.
It's hard to follow that.
Right.
Well, I want to thank you for your time, Joe. This is a beautiful. I mean, it's Valentine's Day. I admit it's probably an unorthodox Valentine's Day show in certain respects, right?
Yeah.
Because we're talking about all these very highfalutin things and faith and Christ and Patti Smith and
well,
Jackson Pollock as being the same as Da Vinci. That's a bold comment.
Well, it's love. It's all.
Oh, yeah. that it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where we are. So I will see you soon.
Yes.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Everybody have a great weekend if you can.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.